Very excited to welcome our next guest in studio. Oh, Frank, I forgot to turn this on. Oh, it is there. It is there. Okay. Yeah.
Happens to the best of us.
I got you. Oh, now I hear myself a lot better. I think you might have just turned it on yourself, if I'm being honest.
Wow.
John Martin is the former CEO of Turner LLC. Back in 2014 to 2018. Prior to that, he was the CFO of Time Warner, the Chief Financial Officer. That's CFO. And has a long history in the world of media, television, multimedia, all that and more. But over the summer, he was announced as the brand new CEO of the PFL. This was a very interesting hire, in my opinion. And I think right out of the gate, he has made a lot of interesting moves as it pertains to PFL. And with a massive 2026 ahead for the company, I'm really curious to see what they do. The biggest story, probably their media rights deal, which is up at the end of 2026 with ESPN. How do they navigate all of that and more? And so without further ado, let us say hello to John Martin, who is kind enough to join us in studio here. What a great honor this is. There he is. Hello, John. How are you?
Good.
Great to meet you in person.
Likewise.
Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Do you live in the city?
I do.
Okay. Do you also live on the West Coast?
Well, technically, yes.
Okay, so
I
you're
moved back and forth.
Okay,
I'm really here now.
You're a jet setter. Because the PFL offices,
Just over in Union Square.
Yeah.
Just right up the street.
and by the way, sleeves here on both arms.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. Started when I was 40.
Okay, all right. No judgment whatsoever. But you don't see CEOs usually coming in with the tats sort of coming out of the long sleeve. It's so great to meet you in person.
Likewise.
Really appreciate it. Congrats on this opportunity. And I think this could be a very fun opportunity for the fans to get to know you and learn about your vision for this company. Because I think this is one of the most interesting stories to follow in 2026. Because as I was saying before you came in, the media rights deal and the ever-changing landscape, especially for the PFL and MMA. And so first, if we can just get to know you a bit and learn about you. I mentioned, your past with Turner and Time Warner. So did I get this right? 2014 to 2018, CEO of Turner, right?
Yes.
And then prior to that, you were the CFO
Of Time Warner. Correct.
Yes. Okay. What a run there. 2014 to 2018. I mean, and this is like TNT, TBS.
That was a fantastic
everything.
opportunity for me. I mean, I was at Time Warner for 30 years. I've seen a lot. And 14 to 18 was really, honestly, the height of media in terms of media evaluations. During that time, we did a huge NBA deal.
Yep.
We did the NCAA March Madness deal, which brought, the second most popular sporting event in the U.S. We partnered with CBS. So I was doing a lot in sports, but doing a lot just in general, building big global brands.
So you were there also in 2016 with the Trump stuff with CNN and all that.
Yes.
And when you look back on that period in your life with wonder and enjoyment, or was it super stressful?
Well, both, but I was privileged. I mean, listen, I had an amazing career. Time Warner was very, very good to me. I think we did a lot of really great things together. When I went to go become CFO in 2008, that's when Jeff Bewkes came in as chairman and CEO. And from 08 till 18, a decade run, I mean, we had the best shareholder returns in media. Jeff was an amazing guy to work for, and we sold the company to AT&T. So it was a bittersweet end, but I feel so blessed. And to run a company like Turner was incredible.
Did you ever think that we would live in a time like so close to that time where you guys signed the deal with the NBA, where the NBA wouldn't be on Turner?
No, it broke my heart. I will tell you, because that was like a 35-year partnership.
Yeah.
And it was so special to everything, Turner's culture inside the NBA, which was a show that I didn't start, but helped, steward and superintend, and the talent that we had there made all the difference. And so I really, really cherished getting to know all the people in Turner Sports, and they built some amazing brands.
I don't know if awkward is the right word, but how does it feel to see them now on ESPN? Same set, same music, same guys, but different branding.
I'm cheerleading for them,
Yeah.
but it's not. It breaks my heart.
Yeah,
I mean, Ernie Johnson, when he left the Turner campus, was in tears. Like, it was really a family. I know that's very cliche.
No.
But for that group, that was really, really special. They were amazing.
Could I ask, do you think in retrospect, the sale to AT&T was a mistake?
No, I don't think so. If you're just looking at it from a shareholder return standpoint, 2018 was the peak
Right.
of all media valuations. And it's something that, as a leadership team, along with Jeff and the other senior leaders at Time Warner, we had been looking at the disruption that was going to occur in media for over a decade and really trying to analyze how big was this going to be, how seismic was it going to be. Netflix was on the radar screen of HBO very, very early because they were sort of in the same business. And what was interesting about Netflix coming on the scene was, for the first time, always was a debate. If you're a media company, is content king, like what you do, or is distribution king, as a cable company? And it used to be one or the other. And I had always said, well, it's not either or, you got to coexist. But what Netflix brought that nobody had ever brought before is the consumer experience, which was just better. Ad-free, always on. The interface was so much better, and we didn't have an answer to compete directly with that.
Okay.
And we knew that YouTube was coming, and all these other distribution channels that are great for businesses like you're in were going to chip away at our business. And so we didn't have a natural competitive response for that. So, it was bittersweet for me because I would have loved to have stayed on, but I continue to wish them well.
So between 18 when you leave and this summer when you take this job, what are you doing?
I was doing a bunch of different things, mostly investing. I was an M&A advisor, mergers and acquisitions advisor for some of the largest private equity firms in the world. So mostly finance stuff. I made some about a half a dozen personal investments in early stage media companies. I'm a minority owner of a second division Danish soccer club because I grew up playing soccer my whole life.
Yes, I do. I do see. I have this. They're currently number one, right?
Yes,
this
currently. We're having a
Akademis
Bold
Club. Okay.
Yes.
Where is this in Denmark?
In Gladsaxe, which is about 6 miles outside Copenhagen.
Wow. How does this happen? Like, how do you stumble upon this?
I have some friends that I played soccer with in college, and a couple of them were actually in the business. One was at MLS, one was an attorney representing athletes in Europe. And so they just asked me this was not a big ticket item.
Sure.
This was
but
more
it's
like
fun,
a Wrexham
right?
play.
Yeah.
It's super fun. I wish it was closer.
Yeah.
I don't go that often, but we watch all the streaming games.
Oh, amazing.
There's a little group in New York that we get together and do viewing parties. So it's fun.
I love that. Okay, so you're just kind of going by. Are you
so then a year ago, Ellison signs a deal to buy Paramount.
Yeah.
There was a short period of time where they could shop the deal, Paramount.
Okay.
So a gentleman by the name of Edgar Bronfman Jr., decades.
Montreal.
Yes.
The Bronfmans. That's where I'm from.
Yes. So Edgar,
Charles, his dad.
Yes. So
Montreal Expos,
yes,
the original owner. That's my
yes.
team. Okay, this is amazing. I didn't know this part.
So Edgar called me and he said,
Wait, you're friends with Edgar?
Yeah.
Wow. Tell him I say hi.
I will.
Okay.
I'm having dinner with him tomorrow night.
Wow. Okay.
So he said, would you help me try to acquire this? I think we could come up with a better deal than what Ellison was offering. I said, well, we're competing against one of the wealthiest guys in the world.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough, but I was intrigued. And I knew Paramount very, very well, and I believed in the future of Paramount. So we got together quickly. We raised over $6 billion. We needed to raise $8 billion. We couldn't get to that level. But we really liked working together closely. And so after that was over, he said, I have a venture investment fund, but I'd like to look at bigger media companies. Would you consider doing that with me? And I have another partner named Daniel Leff, who's also a managing director in the venture fund. So I said, sure. So we started to do that. We did that for almost a year. But I got to know Daniel. I'll come back to this. Daniel's on the board of the PFL.
Oh.
And so we were having dinner one evening, and I just started asking him questions about it because I was a mixed martial arts student from the time I was 25 until 42 when my body finally just quit. I saw UFC 1. I thought it was one of the most spectacular things I had ever seen. And yes, I was a student and I was already engaged, but I immediately saw that this could be really big in terms of a sport and in terms of growth, and what a fantastic thing. So it was 2005. I was the CFO of Time Warner Cable, which was actually the cable provider here in New York City for a while.
Yep.
I get a call from Dana White.
Wow.
I knew who Dana was, but I'm like, what are you calling me for?
Never spoke to him, never met him?
Never.
Okay.
Just called me. And he said, I've heard your name because there aren't that many people in the media industry today who are like real fans and who actually like MMA. He goes, and I asked around the industry and your name came up most often. So he said, I figured I would take a chance. And I helped him with some early days distribution of pay-per-view among cable systems in the US. So that was about 2005. So I started attending the Vegas events, Mandalay Bay, and I thought being in the arena to see a UFC event was, again, one of the most spectacular sporting events I've ever been at. And then in 2008, I had just come over to be the CFO of Time Warner. Dana calls me again, and he said, I'd like to talk to you about the idea of partnering with HBO, where effectively we collectively could own the combat sports category, because HBO was so big in boxing.
Yep.
And we're MMA. And, Dana said, don't mean to be immodest, we're the future. Boxing is still here, but it's getting older. And drive around the island of Manhattan, you see a lot more MMA gyms than you do traditional boxing gyms. What about it? So I love the idea. Brought it to my internal people. At that moment, it was still a little bit too early for my colleagues at Time Warner to embrace mixed martial arts. They didn't know really what it was. They couldn't see it for what I believed it would be. And they were scared of it, honestly. I think they were nervous that it was just perhaps too
violent, whatever. Yeah.
There was, what if somebody dies in the case? All of those questions. And HBO was doing great. Like, they didn't need to get involved in this and take on the additional risk. So it just wasn't the right time. But I thought that was a missed opportunity. I really did. And then, so fast forward to 2016, I'm at Turner. And the Rain Group, the investment bankers, called and said, it's official. Lorenzo is putting the company up for sale. Would you be interested? And I went to Jeff, my boss, again, and I said, I would love to take a look at this. He said, you should. You were right last time. We didn't listen to you, but I think you might be right this time. So I took the top 7 executives, sports executives at Time Warner, Turner, HBO. We did a few months of due diligence, got to spend a lot of time with Dana, got a lot opportunity to sit with Lorenzo, got to know him, the executives there, Nakisa was there at the time. I loved it. I thought that I'm like, wait a minute, you can own a global sports league for $4.25 billion.
Yeah.
When do you ever get an opportunity to do that? So I went to Jeff and I said, I am so sure that this will work from an investment standpoint. I would be willing to step down from my CEO job at Turner. Let me go and be a senior person at the UFC, work with Dana, and we will build this thing into a massive global brand. And Jeff said, I think you're right, but here's the problem. I'm about 80% down the road at selling the company to AT&T. So he's like, I can't go to the board at this particular moment and ask them for $4+ billion, only to then a few months later say, oops, just kidding. Instead of buying something, we're going to sell. So it just didn't work out. So the timing didn't work. But the opportunity to me was clear. And it was one of the single easiest to see opportunities of all the things we ever acquired at Time Warner. That's what I really believed. So then fast forward, Daniel Leff asked me, he said, would you meet Don Davis? And maybe you can share your perspective, because I don't think anybody knows of your history with UFC. And so I agreed to do that. I met Don, very nice couple of meetings. And then he said, what are you doing? Would you ever consider leading this thing? And I really wasn't looking for another CEO job. 30 years as an executive is a lot. And I was enjoying more time than I ever had before. And I said, okay, well, let me look and see what the PFL is today, because I wasn't really sure what it was. And when I looked at it, I wanted to see, okay, is the quality of the fights, is it really good? Is this like, could you say that this is really premium MMA? Is this world-class fighting events? And I actually got pretty quickly comfortable that the fighting's pretty good. I mean, really, really good. And then, of course, as I've gotten more into it, 40% of our global fighters are top 25 independently ranked in their weight classes. I mean, the Bellator acquisition did help solidify the fighter roster. And then I looked and I said, well, how's the event production? Does it look good? Well, we've got George Greenberg, a legendary sports executive producer. We've got Chris Kaiser, ex-WWE, very senior producer. Production's good, really, really good. And then you go, all right, well, how's the distribution? Well, we can be seen now in 170 countries around the world. And that's not easy to do. And people think PFL's been around forever. PFL's been around for 7 years. UFC's been around for 33. So I said, okay, you have a global platform, really good fighter roster, 26 agreements with media partners to distribute the product all around the world. That's not easy to do. And you have arguably somewhat of a comparable product to UFC, but it's monetizing its revenues at a steep discount. So that's where I thought my experience from being a media executive helping to build big global brands. I said, I know how to grow revenue. Like, I know how to cut media deals, media rights deals. I just got more and more excited about this. So for me, having the opportunity to work in an industry that I actually really am a fan, and I believe in the business prospects, and I don't believe that UFC will be a global monopoly in mixed martial arts, because I had to convince myself of that also. But I think that the fan base, particularly around the world, is still very, very underserved. And 85% of MMA fans are arguably outside the U.S. The world's a big place. There's a lot of place to put on premium MMA events. So that's why I'm here.
Wow. So you probably just answered like 10 different questions on your own. No, it was great. I loved hearing it, but it shows what kind of a pro you are. I just wanted to go back to one thing. I remember there was some talk, I think it was in 2008, that HBO was going to get involved, and we were all very excited about this because this felt like validation, like, oh my God, the UFC is finally going to make it to HBO. And then there was a fight in Vegas, and I think the president of HBO at the time got in some trouble, and his son was put, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And his son.
There was a Mayweather De La Hoya fight, I think.
Yeah, and his son was pushing for it, and he didn't really want to do it.
That is right. I was on the other side. Yes.
You were pushing for it too.
Yes. I was in the middle of that.
Because Dana has told this story that he felt like he was on the goal line.
I thought we were on the goal line too. I really did.
And that really blew it all up.
That blew it up.
Wow. And then to say to you that, like I asked you, do you kind of wish that the AT&T sale didn't happen? If the AT&T sale doesn't happen, maybe you're involved in the purchase of the UFC.
I think.
So how do you not regret it?
I guess it's a little bit of a bittersweet.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing sliding doors moments here and there, but now here you are, and so you decide to take that job in July, right? This job?
Yes, although I didn't start till September 2nd.
That's
so
right.
Really,
they made the announcement in July.
Yeah, this is like my 62nd day.
Wow. What is that like?
It's been jumping in the deep end.
Does it feel that way? Is it?
Well, no. But look, I experienced media executive, sports executive.
Yeah.
I've never run a global fight promotion.
Yeah.
So I'm learning a lot. It's different from being the CEO of a company. When you're CEO of like a Turner, which had $13.5 billion of revenue, you probably make one hard decision a month.
Okay.
And when you're the CEO of PFL, you're making 3 a day.
Yeah.
But it's fast and it's dynamic and it's exciting, and so I'm learning a lot, and I'm really, really energized. I'm excited to be here. Look, we got a lot of things to do.
Yes. Okay.
And a lot to try to accomplish.
So to that point, you come out of the gate, and I remember you put out this statement, and it wasn't a fancy statement on this letterhead, but like the way I read it was, you're here to clean up, and I'm not trying to disparage a previous regime, but clean up some confusion and what I thought was a bit of a mess. And I remember seeing it, reading it, and quote tweeting it by saying, like, this feels like a breath of fresh air, because you were going to make things a lot more easy for the fans to follow. You were going to simplify things. Did that come to you right away? Was that something that you recognized right away? Because the knock on the PFL from the likes of me and many others, fans as well, has been, it's just very confusing. There's these like regional tournaments, and then the American tournament, and then there's the American champion, and then there's other champion, and it was just too much. It was just a lot. And I understood the willingness to be different, to be the counter to the UFC, but you can't muddy the waters. And at the end of the day, the fight game is the fight game, and the best just have to fight the best. And so when did you recognize that, hey, we just need to simplify all of this? And was there any pushback, or is it ultimately like what John Martin wants, John Martin gets?
Well, not a problem. I came in with a predisposition that the tournament structure was asking a lot of the fans. And I'll share from my own perspective, like me trying to follow the tournaments to then the Champion Series, but that largely in some respects was created through the Bellator acquisition. So you were merging together different formats. Bellator had champions that were different than the PFL champions. So I thought there was an opportunity to simplify, and I was pleased that it seems like the reaction has been quite positive. So I think there's always, if you're the challenger brand and if you're not UFC in this instance, of course there's going to be a desire when people look at you and go, well, why do I have to pay any attention to you? What's your hook? How are you different? the format or the product is one easy way. You could say, well, they do it this way and we're going to do it this way. But I grew up, I was a fight fan, boxing fan since I was 5. I mean, some of the fondest memories I have of me being with my dad, who was not a sports fan, but he was a boxing nut, was watching Muhammad Ali and Hearns Hagler and all. And you can't help but like, who's the champ? Who's the ranked? Who's this? Who's fighting who? Who the matchmakers? What's the buildup? What's the story? And then from having been in the arenas in Vegas watching UFC, where you got the walkouts, the music and the mood and the energy. And by the time the cage doors shut, you are so excited and the arena's rocking, like you just want to get this thing going. I said, let's just simplify it because the fighters are good enough. Like we could put on some pretty world-class events without having to make it overly complicated. So I just think that there's a reason why the formats work in combat sports. And I think now's the time for us to more conform. I think there are other ways we could probably differentiate PFL versus others. And the receptivity internally from the board and from Don has all been very, very positive. Right now, everybody's supportive of what I'm trying to do.
Okay, so does that mean in 2026, does that mean no more tournaments?
I think, well, in the U.S., we're not going to do any tournament.
Okay.
So, and in Europe, we're not going to do a tournament.
Okay.
We have 2 other regional leagues where we have partners. One is in Middle East and Northern Africa.
Yep.
And the other is in the continent of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And those are more regional development leagues. And I think for those, we're going to continue to have maybe a modified or smaller tournament format. But I'm really here. I'm an ambitious person. And I've built global brands. I've helped build global brands. I think we have at the PFL something that could be a massive global brand. So I want to go and really put us on the path to be able to start to execute against that. I think the best possible way to do that is by putting on our highest profile fighters in as many events as possible, put on great fights with great fighters and delight the fans. It's pretty simple.
So how many events are you slated to put on in 2025 here in the United States?
We're probably going to do 10 in the US.
Okay, so almost one a month?
Almost one a month.
Yep.
And then we'll likely do, and none of this is firm announcements, but likely we'll do probably 4 in Europe.
Okay.
And a couple of outside, maybe in the Middle Eastern region that are global events.
Yep.
Like we just held one in Dubai last month.
Yep. This wouldn't be like a MENA event.
No, see, MENA will probably do 4 events.
Okay.
Africa will do 4. We made an announcement that we were going to launch a league in Australia, but we're still evaluating what that format is going to be. And I think Australia's a fantastic MMA market. And I think, I'd like to bring some of our best fighters to Australia too and host real global events there. I think we can really delight fans there. And like I said, the world's a big place. There's a lot of opportunity to go and really put on great shows for fans. I think that's what people want to see.
Absolutely. So these 10 events in the US, they're just events.
So there's
no hook, there's no gimmick?
No. So there's no world tournament.
Basically kind of like what we just saw in Dubai.
Yes.
Just like this guy's defending his belt.
Top of the card.
Yeah.
But either championship events or at that caliber.
Amazing.
Main events, co-main events.
Does Champion Series still exist?
Probably not.
What's the point?
Yeah, I mean, it's PFL Global.
Right.
Yeah, PFL.
Right. When you make that decision, you have, and we'll get to your media rights deal, but you do have 1 year left with ESPN. Mm-hmm. Do you have to get their sign off, or as long as you deliver the 10 events, they're okay with it?
No, I did reach out to them and spoke to them before we made any announcement, and they actually they reacted very favorably.
Okay, good.
To the new direction.
For you, what do you think is the sweet spot number in total? A whole year, 365. How many events do you think is because sometimes I feel like some companies, they grow a little bit too fast. They're putting on the cards get watered down. Do you have any idea what you think is like the sweet spot number for events per year?
I don't know. I think it's more than where we're at right now. But again, it's a 7-year company. I want to make sure, this is a little bit of corporate speak, but I want to make sure that the ambition of the company is equal to its capabilities. In other words, I want to make sure that the events that we're putting on are all very consistent at a high level, that people will know if it's a PFL event, they should expect a certain type of event with certain type of fights. And if we can replicate that ability and do it around the world, then I want to go where we can make it a business and where there is going to be fan receptivity. And I think we can definitely scale up from where we're at. I mean, Latin America is still fertile territory for PFL. Asia is still fertile territory. So if we start doing 4 to 6 in the MENA region and 4 in Africa and probably 4 Australia, New Zealand eventually, 10, at least 10 in the US. It's harder to break into the US a little bit because of the dominance that UFC has there. Although I think we'll start to get on people's radar screen more in the US because we're going to bring higher profile fighters there. And then, of course, and I think this has already been announced, an ambition to do some events in Latin America and Asia. I mean, if you look at where our audience is today, our number one market in terms of audience is Mexico.
Interesting.
Mexico and India.
Really?
They're neck and neck, and U.S. is number 3.
Wow, interesting. And you've never done an event in Mexico?
Mexico and India.
Really?
They're neck and neck, and U.S. is number 3.
Wow, interesting. And you've never done an event in Mexico?
No.
And
I would love to do an event in Mexico.
And no major organization has done one in India. Are you looking at that as well?
I haven't in the 62 days.
Yeah.
Ambition, yes.
Yes.
But nothing to really.
And another thing that it seems like, so it's just going to be one champion per weight class. Just like Costello Vanstinas is the champion at 185 and Corey Anderson is the champion at 205 and
Usman.
That's it, right?
Yes.
Nothing else. Okay. And will there be tournaments, like sometimes what Bellator would do back in the day, there'll be like one tournament that sort of spans over a period of time and you focus on that? Or are you kind of tired of tournaments and you just want to focus on the best fights possible?
I think for now, the best opportunity for us to elevate our brand is to focus on the best fights with the best fighters. But I would never say never.
Sure.
There could be these one-off super fight events where, who knows, it could be country versus country. Or I know we were having some casual discussions in the continent of Africa, which I have to learn a lot more about.
Sure.
But the country rivalries in Africa are pretty epic.
Right.
So there's some really interesting things we might be able to do there. But, PFL is the first MMA organization that really held a premium MMA event in the continent of Africa. We've now done 3. By the end of the year, we'll do 4.
I know that there are some fighters who, when they sign deals with the PFL, the tournament is a part of their contract, X amount of... What happens if I have a contract and I thought I was signing to be a part of a tournament that would give me X amount of dollars at the end of it? How do you now deal with that?
I don't think it's going to be a big impediment.
Okay. All right. So that's not going to be a huge thing. You won't have disgruntled fighters. That was long before you came this year, early portion of 25. This was a bit of a theme where some names were kind of publicly saying they wanted out or they were frustrated. It seemed like a lot of the Bellator guys who came over. Only one recently, Larissa Pacheco, she just all of a sudden got released. A, can you tell us about that? And B, what do you gather? I know you were in Dubai. What is the mood right now among the fighters? Do you think that ship has sailed, that storm has passed, and now it's more smooth sailing?
I hope so. I mean, look, after being here 62 days, I think I would be naive as to say that everything is looking smooth sailing.
Right.
That's my goal.
Okay.
And I know in the past that there was some, there was a digestion or an ingest, I don't know what the right word is, of the Bellator fighter roster. And there were a lot of fighters that joined very, very quickly. And there were problems fighting them as frequently as I believe the fighters wanted to fight. So we've rationalized, and all this happened before I got here.
Yep.
We've rationalized a lot of the roster. I think I'm pretty comfortable with where the fighter roster is now. And we want to utilize the fighters that we have and keep managing it in a way where we can give the fighters the best opportunity to make a career.
What happened with Pacheco?
I don't want to get into the specifics of that.
Okay.
I think for Larissa, we wanted to give her an opportunity to fight and possibly pursue a weight class that we just didn't have a depth or quality fights for.
Okay. What is the sweet spot number in terms of fighters on the roster?
I don't know if we're exactly at the sweet spot.
Yeah.
We've got about 100 that we call global.
Okay.
And then we've got about another 125, 30 or so that are more like in the regional league structure system. So we have about 230.
And you like that, or do you want more? Do you want less?
Well, I want the best fighters.
Right.
I think we're at a quantity now, though, where it's manageable.
And so, what's interesting about that is there was a period maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago where PFL was very, I thought, aggressive in terms of signing free agents. And it would sometimes be guys like Rory McDonald and Anthony Pettis, who were ex-UFC guys, a little bit, back 9 of the career, but who still kind of held some value. I don't feel that activity from the PFL side of thing. I don't see a lot of people saying that they're talking to the PFL, and I don't know if that's a conscious thing. And I'll give you an example. There's a guy named Gable Steveson, who's a big prospect, former national champion, heavyweight, superstar, University of Minnesota. He just fought in something called Dirty Boxing, a league that's run by the Kawa brothers and Mike Perry and John Jones this past week. And I was talking to his manager, and I was like, if I was a promoter, I would try to sign this guy last week. Like, he has all the makings of a future heavyweight superstar. And I was like, by the way, have you guys talked to the PFL? Like, because he keeps talking about the UFC, but if I was the PFL, I would try to steal this guy, get him early. Maybe he's not quite ready for the UFC, but you get him early. Sometimes you have to pay a premium when you're that challenger brand to try to get the guy. And he said no discussions, and that surprised me. And so will we start to see the PFL be a little bit more aggressive with free agent signings like they were back in the day, or do you want to just have homegrown stars that will take?
No, it's a mix of both.
Okay,
it really is a mix of both. I think, as I looked at the qualities that PFL has, I wanted to know, does it have the ability to create its own stars?
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the likes of a Dakota Ditcheva or Paul Hughes, those are great success stories where they were identified and developed in the PFL system. So I'd like the ability to find those people, but also be opportunistic and find really, really terrific fighters. I don't know the specifics of Gable's story, but if there's a really, really terrific fighter that can come in and we can sign and get into our fighter roster and it can work financially, then yeah, of course, why not? Why not do that?
Without getting into specific roles, I'm just curious from like the mind of a very successful CEO. When you come in, how much turnover is there going to be? Like, are you saying like we need more here? We need more? I sort of view you as someone coming in and like taking over a baseball team. And sometimes when there's a new regime, you want to bring in your own guys. And so again, I understand we're talking about people's lives and jobs and things like that. And I'm not suggesting you to fire anyone or anything like that, but like how much of that is a part of the, I think as fans, we just think of the fighters, but there's a whole organization, right, that you're trying to make into a powerhouse as well. And so how much of your time is spent on that as well?
It's been early days, but yeah, sure. I mean, but that gets back to what I just said. I want to make sure the ambition is equal to the capabilities. And I think the capabilities that PFL has today is really good. Opportunistically, could we look to fill in and maybe there are some talent gaps? Sure, but we're not going to have a wholesale swap out of the executives and the workers, because the organization is really working very, very well together. So yeah, I may have a different opinion about where to put resources and capabilities, and I want to make sure we've got some areas where I think we're going to need, like I'm a media guy. I want to put more emphasis on storytelling. There's never been more and more ability to tell stories, and fighting is a perfect runway for what gets people involved in the fight story are the stories. Mm-hmm. Who are the fighters? What are their styles? Why are they fighting? Do they have beef with one another? Do they not? I don't know. As a boxing fan, watching HBO 24/7 was like one of my favorite parts of watching the run up to a fight. So I think we need to do more of that. And we may need to build some capabilities on that front. And we need to get more sophisticated, like a lot of growing up companies do, in data, and how do you make decision making, and how do we take the data and information that we get and make that informed decisions from that, and how do we take our social engagement, which is arguably better than it should be versus where our TV audience is, and how do we build on that and then ultimately monetize that? So I have really, really good fighter operations people and really, really good executives. I'm spending time in both because I'm accountable for everything.
Right.
But you have to think of it almost with two sides of your brain. It's like, no, this is a business. So we can't just be worried about I wish I could spend more time with the fighters. It's actually fun.
Yeah.
It really is. That's why I was kind of in this. I'm like a kid in a candy store, like just getting to know these people. And I was really, really surprised early on just how humble many of them are, and just how thankful they are that they're with the PFL, and that's very that's near and dear to my heart, because it makes me feel like I'm doing something good in the world, that we could provide these people with an opportunity. They're great elite athletes, but it's got to be a business. Right. So I'm spending a lot of my time doing that too.
Okay, they, for the most part, they are all like really wonderful people. They
really are. The people I've met are extraordinary human beings.
I remember when the Bellator acquisition was made official, Don Davis was actually on this program, and he dubbed the PFL as the co-leader. And this has been a term that has kind of, I don't want to say followed him, but has been brought up a lot. Like, how dare you compare yourself to the UFC or say that you're a co-leader? Do you agree? Do you think that the PFL
co-leader?
Co-leader. Do you agree with that sentiment?
That's a word. I'm not gonna take issue with what Don said. I am very, very respectful of the UFC. I think I've even been quoted as saying, yes, we're in the same business as them, but we can succeed at PFL by continuing to help grow the category and just be more successful at doing what we're doing. I think there's plenty of room for multiple successful MMA organizations. UFC is a clear leader. So I probably wouldn't be brash enough to say we're the co-leader. We're not. But we have ambition to grow and be bigger and more valuable. And that's what's energizing me and getting me excited every day.
And so you mentioned your media background, and that leads us to 2026. And what a massive year it is, right? This is the final year on your current deal with ESPN. I did see an interview that you did. You were over in the UAE, right, recently, and you did talk about the relationship with ESPN. And correct me if you feel like I'm miscategorizing your sentiment, but it seemed like you felt like they could push you a little bit more, market you a little bit more, and promote you guys a little bit more. Is that an accurate assessment of what you said?
Yes, I think it is. And I'm not looking to pick a fight with them, because I think it's a blessing that PFL is on the ESPN platform. But we were on the same platform as UFC, and again, paying respects to the leader, the marketing, the promotion, the consistent scheduling went to UFC, and we didn't get that. Our scheduling consistency has been very uneven. We share time between ESPN 1 and ESPN 2, and arguably it's been more on ESPN 2. We don't get very much marketing and promotion. And if I'm trying to build a brand, my question for ESPN, and I haven't really started discussions with them, because I'm going to want to know, do they want to be in mixed martial arts or do they not? And I hope the answer is yes. And I would like 2026 to be a great demonstration that we could be fantastic partners. But as I think about beyond 2026, our goals are really not any different than what UFC's goals were. It's, more money. That's, of course, very, very important. But we would love to be with a distributor who really wants to help us build our company, because we're going to help them grow their audiences. And MMA and PFL has very attractive audiences for a network, and bigger audiences that I think people understand. So it should work both ways, but I would want ESPN to try to help us help them if that's what they want. And that means consistent scheduling, marketing, and promotion. And those are all going to be, part of the consideration set. It's a very dynamic marketplace right now. Again, I think the UFC Paramount deal is terrific, and I think it validates mixed martial arts as a sports proposition. I think early days of me talking with Dana every now and then, and him saying that so much of his discussions with anybody was trying to convince them that mixed martial arts was actually a real sport and a viable sporting category. Well, thank you, Dana. I don't think anybody really needs to talk about that anymore. I mean, MMA is now a mainstream sport. And as I met with our international media partners a couple of weeks ago in Monaco at Sportel, I heard consistently from about a dozen of them that they're all looking for a combat sports vertical. They all want to be in this business. I was very encouraged, because here I am showing up as the new CEO of PFL. Everybody that we talk to who's not in business with UFC, which is most everybody, is saying, no, we would love to be in business with you. Like, we're trying to solve for a combat sports vertical. And oh, by the way, can you come and do an event in our city?
Yeah.
It's heartening, because it would be different if we showed up and nobody wanted to be in business with us, or they weren't interested in the product that we have. Everybody seems interested. Now it's then it comes down to business. Like, okay, how do you organize your resources and prioritize what are you trying to accomplish, and make sure in your limited amount of time and energy and capabilities, how do you point them in the direction that gives us the best returns? So, I look forward to engaging with ESPN. It's a little early, so it's not like they're ignoring me.
Is it early? I wonder about that. Like, sometimes you see a deal. I remember when WWE announced their Netflix deal, it was about like a year out.
I suspect that discussions will likely begin soon.
Okay. Are you free to talk to anyone yet, or are you still in that? Okay.
No. So
when does that kick in?
Beginning of next year will be, this is an exclusivity period.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's public, so I don't want to.
Sure.
But it runs through the beginning of next year. And And then listen, I mean, there's arguably more potential parties interested in U.S. MMA rights now than in memory.
Okay.
You've got the usual suspects, and I don't know again if they're going to be interested or not. But there's Netflix, there's Amazon. Those are global platforms. There's Apple, although I don't know what their interest level would be, and I don't. Would love to talk to them though.
Yeah,
I've had very.
Well, they're two entry, the baseball and the MLS. I don't know how good it was, but now they're with F1, right?
Yeah, F1 would be interesting.
Right,
it's a great deal for them.
Yeah,
it's gonna be really, really interesting to see. But then you look at the more traditional broadcasters. You've got NBC is splitting itself into two.
Yeah,
don't know what their ambition is going to be. Fox has some pretty ambitious sports desires, and they're talking about sports over the top vertical. And
there is an old home of yours that is out there, right? It's not quite structured the same, but wouldn't that be a story?
That would be a story.
Yeah.
So I'd love to engage with them and talk to them. I mean, I don't know who they're going to be owned by, but they're in the process of splitting in two.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they've got they've got big ambitions. They're back in wrestling, and so there's a lot of people to potentially call on. And then there's new distributors as well. There's the likes of Fubo or Roku or other types of YouTube.
UFC leaving ESPN, is that good for PFL or bad?
Well, I don't want to be presumptuous. I could certainly make an argument it's good for us. As long as ESPN wants to stay in MMA, I think we're a terrific, viable
You understand
alternative.
why I asked that question though, right? Because if they lose UFC, I wonder if they just say, "Hey, we're going to take a break from MMA."
That's why I said it's and that decision I can't necessarily influence. If they want to be in mixed martial arts, not yet.
Not yet. So the conversations have been very brief at this moment. I know you just said like 60-something days you're in.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we've been focused on just finalizing the 26 schedule. So that's what we're doing. And they've been really good to work with. Not yet.
Not yet.
But it's close.
But in terms of venues and things like that?
And dates.
Will we start
and networks.
The venues, especially here in the US, like there was the Universal Studios shows, which I thought was a big mistake. And then like smaller venues. And then you look at the shows over in France or something like that, and it's like a whole different company. Will we start to see the PFL be held in like the Prudential centers of the world? Some of these bigger venues here in America as opposed to the smaller ones.
That's the direction I'd like to move in.
Okay.
I looked at, I was in Dubai for the first event I was live. We had 10,000 people in an arena. The place had a lot of energy.
Yeah.
We've done 17,000 in Paris. There's no reason why we can't replicate that here, but then we've got to bring in the same level of talented fighters.
Sure.
And I think the World Tournament sub-optimized that.
Yes.
So that's going to be the goal.
Okay.
Move in that direction.
Yes.
But maybe it doesn't happen overnight, right? Because you got to start to build up.
Yeah.
Got to elevate the brand. But those are global events. There's no reason why you can't do it in the U.S. Other than the U.S. is a little bit more jaded in terms of a sports market.
Yeah, and maybe there's more nationalism and all that stuff over there.
Exactly.
But like it's striking to me, like we'll watch this event in Lyon in December, and it will come across as a completely different company as an event here in Atlantic City or... You know what I mean?
I think the organization is energized on elevating our profile in the U.S.
Okay.
I think it's really important. It'll help us in our U.S. media rights discussions. I think a lot of rights partners will be surprised because they're probably paying less attention to what we're doing internationally. But internationally, it's a comparable product to what UFC is doing.
Is there a world where you do more events internationally than here in America, where you become more of a European brand, for example, than an American brand because it's so successful over there?
I think that the answer is we'll wait and see.
Okay.
I would like to make a real go of it in the U.S. Because I like to, let's face it, where's the big media money? It's in the U.S.
Yeah.
So I'd rather fish where the fish are. But PFL is being quite successful outside the U.S. And there's a lot of areas like in Dubai and UAE and Saudi and in France. France is doing really, really well.
Yeah.
Where you look and you see the scale of the events that we're successfully putting on, and the gates are growing and the fan base is growing, and you say, okay, if we don't crack the code in the U.S., which I believe we will, but there's a big viable business outside the U.S.
Going back to the media rights deal for a moment, is there a number in your mind that you think this is worth for you in the U.S.?
I always like to say what makes the market is we'd like to have 2 bidders at least.
Yeah.
Because I can do math. So you look at comparables and you say this audience to this, take a discount because we're not the biggest brand. I mean, so yeah, there's a number. It's meaningfully higher than where we're at right now. But
Yeah. Is that public?
no.
No. Could I ask what it is?
No.
Okay. I took a shot. And regarding, we're starting to see, I think WWE was kind of the first ones to do this, where it's like, hey, the benefit of being on Netflix is that when we promote it on our broadcast, we tell the world it's on Netflix, right? UFC now trying to do the same thing with Paramount Plus. We just saw their deal in Australia and Latin America. Does the ESPN deal, that takes time to line it up. Does your ESPN deal line up with other territories, or are we just is the big one USA for 2026 and the other ones are kind of set for now?
For now, they're staggered.
Okay.
But this is the media
want
world
that?
that I came from,
Yeah.
which is as you gain strength, then you'd probably prefer them to all be lined up.
Yeah.
And I've spent a big part of my career studying how to do that. But for now, I think it's to our advantage to keep them staggered.
Okay. And I don't know how much you've paid attention to the Top Rank saga, Top Rank being the boxing.
Not a little bit.
Only to ask, Top Rank was on ESPN. They haven't had an event since July. Here we are, early November. They still don't have a broadcast home. That's very rare. Like usually you find out months before it ends. And I was wondering if that gave you any pause for, hey, yeah, I know that there are a lot of homes out there, potential homes, but no one's buying a legendary boxing brand. It gives me a little bit of pause. I was wondering how you digested that.
I haven't spent all that much time thinking about it because I think every situation is different.
Okay.
So I don't know, to be completely honest. I think I have confidence in the PFL brand, in our league, in the events that we're going to be putting on, the audiences that will deliver the desirability of those audiences. I don't know anything about that for Top Rank.
Sure.
And for some partner who has real sports ambition, I think we could be a really, really good partner to be with. I believe in this. That's why I'm here.
I'll ask you just a few more questions and let you go. And I really appreciate the insight and time. It's rare to get this type of insight. Could I ask, in 2025, will the company be profitable?
Not yet.
Not yet. How far away are you from that?
Probably 27.
Okay, that's not too bad. But you're comfortable with where you're at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Francis Ngannou is obviously the biggest name in the company. How would you describe the state of the relationship? Because I've heard you talk in media that you did before going to Dubai. I believe I saw you guys there. At least I saw him with Don, which was...
I met with him there. I was there. I met with him last week. In Dubai again.
Okay, great. So
I don't have anything to announce yet.
No,
he's a huge priority for us. Francis will be fighting.
How was the meeting?
It was cordial. It was good.
Okay.
And he knows we want to put something in front of him that's going to be good for him and good for us.
Okay. And so you think he will fight for the PFL in 26?
Yes.
Yeah, because he still has one fight left on the deal, right? Okay. And you felt a willingness and an open, dialogue from him.
Francis wants to fight.
Yeah. Okay. He's embroiled in a war of words with Jake Paul this morning.
I saw that.
Yeah. That's good fun. That's good. But that would be boxing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is part of the game.
What about Jake and the relationship with PFL? That was
I don't, that's one in my 60 some days. I haven't met Jake yet. I haven't spoken to him. And so I know what his relationship is with Don and with Peter Murray. And I don't know, I got asked a question, I think, 12 days into my new gig. They're like, well, was Jake going to fight MMA? And I have no idea.
Okay.
But he has a relationship with the PFL. If he ever does anything in mixed martial arts, I would love for it to be with the PFL. But I have no insight or anything that I could add to that at the moment. And he's got his own thing to solve right now too.
Right.
It's unfortunate what happened.
Yes. This is a very sort of like nerdy fight granular thing, but just curious your thoughts. Uniforms. How do you feel about uniforms in the PFL?
I want to continue to look at it.
Okay.
We have a relationship with Takedown. I just met the CEO there. He's a very dynamic guy. He's very well respected. But I believe, forget it. Let's look bigger than uniforms.
Yep.
One of the things I think that's so amazing about the fight game is that to tap into the personalities of fighters. And I think we, PFL need to do a better job, again, with my media sensibilities of storytelling and understanding who these people are and letting them exert their own personality. And part of that is, I think, when you put a uniform on somebody, sometimes it's sort of, I don't know. It's I liked back in the OG days
Yes.
of UFC, seeing them walk out in their own gear and everything. Like,
course.
so, but
I
how do
hate
you,
it.
how do
just
you,
for the record, just so you know where I'm coming from.
you don't like the uniforms?
Despise it. It actually makes me mad. It makes me mad. It enrages me because, to your point, I loved seeing Mike Tyson come out in the all black and the towel.
Well, that was
over his head.
terrifying. When as a fan, I mean, terrifying in a good way.
Yeah, it was.
That was so
that was part
ominous
of
to
his-
see him
yes.
in the black shorts, no socks, and the sweatshirt.
Why would you strip that? Why there's a very easy solution to all of this, and I hate that the UFC does it as well. But like GSP walking out in his gi is cool,
Yeah.
and the headband.
I like that too, as a fan.
Yes. So if you have a deal with, say, a takedown. Okay, yeah, you put a takedown logo on there, everyone wins. Why do they all have to look the same?
Yeah.
Why do we want them to look like football players with helmets and you can't tell the difference between everyone else? It doesn't make sense. You can't. There used to be a fighter named Joanne Calderwood, and she's from Scotland. And when she first came into MMA, she would fight like in a Scottish, kilt. And like everyone was like, this is freaking awesome, right? And if you're a fan from Scotland, you're like, that's one of my own.
Yep,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Like I love her. Now I want to follow her and support her. She walks in there with a takedown shorts and like she looks like everyone else. Unless you hear her speak, you have no idea she's from Scotland.
Right.
So
I understand your point. And as a fan, I said I want to know who the fighters are. I want to know who I want to follow. I want to know who I want to invest my time with, and I want to know who to root for.
right.
So part of that is that I like the drama of the walkouts. And I like, I like that more than pyro and I mean, it just bring it back to.
Oh, this speaks to my soul. Are you talking about like old school, just walk through the crowd?
I like that.
Yes. Enough of this ramp nonsense. Yes. Is that what we're going to see in 26?
Possibly.
Oh, this is great. That's all we need. We want the fans reaching over and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, I could not agree more. This is very promising stuff. I like the vision here. I like the vision. Are you the face of the PFL now? Are you the guy who's going to be up there?
People keep asking me that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, so I am who I am. I'm a business person who's a big fan and who's been in and around media for a long time. I mean, when I was a CFO and between Wall Street and press and CEO of Turner, I did tons of media. I don't mind doing it. I like sitting down and talking about the business. You could see how excited I am.
Sure.
It's better than looking at spreadsheets. But, people are like, well, are you going to try to be Dana White? I can't be who I'm not.
Right.
And there is arguably no other person like Dana. So I'm not going to try to do something that's not authentic to who I am. I do think we need a bit more promotion. Now, whether I'm that person or I'll find somebody else who could possibly come in and be that person, or maybe we have somebody in the organization that could be anointed to be that person. I don't know the answer yet. But I think
it should be you. And can I tell you why? Because when you speak, I believe that you are the one making the decisions.
Right, I understand.
So you can't put a figurehead up there, because if I'm asking the figurehead in this specific instance, he's in the back of his mind saying, oh, I can't say anything because I don't want to upset John or Don, right?
I do understand that.
So I think whether you like it or not, I think you have to be the guy at this point. And I'm wondering if you're comfortable being the guy at the dais telling the world you have to watch this show, or being in front of the fighters and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd be fine doing that.
Okay, is that what you're going to do?
I think so.
Because I think you did it in Dubai, right?
I did it in Dubai, yes.
Were you okay with that?
Yeah, it was
like, here
fine.
you are like a month into your job and you're standing in between Usman and Paul Hughes.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
That was fun.
That was a tough one as far as the scorecards were concerned. There was that one scorecard, the 50-45, and I thought, I know you guys aren't the ones. Any MMA fan knows that, but I felt like it was a black eye on the fight. And I felt like the promotion needed to distance itself from it.
Well, again, we don't control the judges.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying. I will tell you, being in the arena, lots of people saw it differently. I actually saw it. I didn't see it 5-0.
Yeah, no.
But I thought Usman won the fight.
Yeah. No, 48-47 Usman is a very
It was a
fair,
close fight.
Yeah, 50-45.
Paul did a really nice shot. It was a good fight. It was an entertaining fight.
Right. By the way, did you hear from Dana White since you took this job?
No.
Your old friend?
No.
He didn't congratulate you, wish you well?
We weren't that close. I mean,
No,
Dana's, he's got a lot going on right now.
Okay. So
I look forward to our paths crossing, and I want to thank him because it's partly he's the reason why I've always been so interested in the sport. And it's hard to look at what he's done and not be incredibly impressed. And as a fan, like he built this category. I mean, he's one of the primary reasons why it is what it is. So for that, this is why this is such a fun opportunity to be in.
Okay, last one. What is the message? And perhaps this message is for the hardcore PFL fan, and perhaps it's for the fan who checked out the PFL and kind of just lost, belief in it, because we talked to them all here, right? And this is the hardest of the hardcore, and PFL became, in my opinion, a bit of a whipping boy, so to speak, because like fans didn't like the direction. It felt too confusing, as we talked about earlier. New time, new regime, new era, new face of the company, new CEO. What is the message now to either the hardcores who have held on or maybe the lapsed fan?
I think judge us by what's to come. I really do. I appreciate those people that have hung in. I think, again, still a relatively young company, but I have ambition to really make this a bona fide, valuable global sports league where people are going to talk about it and talk about PFL and get really, really excited about it. I mean, that's what I'm here to do. And we have all the building blocks to do it. Now we just need to execute.
Well, I wish you the best.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you again for having me.
Really great talking to you, meeting you for the first time, and wish you guys the best. So one more event in 2025. That's December 13th.
Global event, yes.
Global event, right. And there's the Africa.
Yeah, and one more in the Middle East.
So this is the lineup. It's a phenomenal card, yes. December 13th in Lyon, which they held a WWE event in this venue 2 years ago, and it's maybe the best crowd that I've ever heard for any combat sports event. Like they were singing and dancing the entire time.
I'm excited.
So can't wait to see how that all looks and comes across on television, and then can't wait for all the announcements. Will we start to hear about the 2026 plans this year or next year?
Hopefully this year.
First event of 26, when do you think it will be, American event?
I don't know if it'll be in January, but it'll be close.
Okay, so first month or so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. All the best, John. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We'll take a quick break, say goodbye to John. Be back with Aljamain Sterling. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.